Oh, my goodness. You want to go and sign up for some kind of team, right? Pickleball, running, some kind of marathon, some kind of something. Let's give them a great shout out. Remember, wherever you are, they can feel your loving clap. That's for sure. There is one life. That life is God. That life is our life right now. Say that with me, please. There is one life. That life is God. That life is our life right now. There is one life, and that life is God, and that life is your life. It's my life right now. Yes? If that's what you know and all you know, that's all you need to know. Today we're talking about a strong finish. There's a story about a softball team that is in the Olympics out of Atlanta. In 1996, the United States is represented by this women's softball team. And the woman gets up, Danielle Tyler, and she goes and she hits a home run over that fence. And let me tell you, I know what that feels like, and that is sweet. But she hits a home run, and it's going to position that team to win, okay? And she's so excited, and all the adrenaline's running and rushing and everything. And she goes around all the bases to meet all of her teammates, and the energy is so high. And what she failed to do is that she didn't touch home base. So the opposing team, Australia, rebutted the win, the home run, and therefore they didn't win that game. That happens in life. It could be that it's happening to you right now. You have prayed in your energy to change, your life to change, your experience to change, and maybe there's another base that you need to put your claim on. There's another moment that you need to touch with the plate of your life and your own consciousness and your own understanding, you see, because it's not over until it is over. And as Buddha would say, there's two ways to be successful at a project, or two things that are required or that would keep it from ever happening. One is never starting, and the other is never finishing. It reminds me of the man that says, I made resolutions for this year, and I've made 6 of them, and I've kept every one of them. That's right, I've kept every one of them. They're in an envelope on top of my refrigerator. We can argue our limitations, and truly indeed, we will have them. Yes, we will have them. This week, kind of emerging in me as I've been thinking about the distinction between, not to separate, but both and, the difference between human law and spiritual law. Human law says, as human-made laws, which at times you can even change if you're willing to go out and do the work and research them and actually vote on something or some kind of regulation. But then there's spiritual law. And human law says, you can stay at home and drink yourself till you die. Spiritual law might be telling you need to give that up. You understand what I'm saying? Human law can say that, there's certain guidelines for you to follow. Human law would say, at your place of corporation, they probably need a time clock. Spiritual law says you can't cheat anybody of what you get paid for, because if you cheat somebody for what you're getting paid for, you're not really going to get paid. You're going to walk away with some kind of small something, but the bigger picture of what is due to you, you're not going to get to experience. Are you with me? So human law allows space for us to move around and do certain things in our lives, but the spiritual law is the one that's guiding you about your energy and about your experience. And you want to remember that, because you can cheat no one of anything, because it's called karma. And if you don't understand karma, look it up. Because it is the law of your life. Every time you speak from the power of your word, that is the power that you are held accountable to. And the law doesn't play. You see? It just doesn't play with us about it. When I think of the Miracle Mile, I think of the wonderful moment when Roger Bannister broke that barrier. It had been tried since 1888. And here it is, 1954, and Roger Bannister says, I'm going for it. And he broke that barrier of reaching a mile before a 4-minute mark. And they studied it, and they were looked at it, and they were so fascinated. Because the moment he did it, thousands did it after him, as if it wasn't a big deal at all. Am I right? And so all these people then could do it. And what they found, there was one reason they couldn't do it, and it was the psychological block. Are you with me? It was a psychological block. The human body could do it. The athlete could do it and have a strong finish. All of that. But he made up his mind that he didn't have to see it in order for it to be true. And that's what I'm asking you to visit in your life today, is that law is unprecedented. In other words, you don't need to see it. Nobody needs to have done it before you. It doesn't need to happen in order for it to be created and in order for it to be realized. And we do not want to forget that every one of us, I mean, all motivational speakers, all the preachers, it's like, man, can't they think of anything else to use other than 2020 new vision? You know, I mean, it's nice, but it didn't seem that original, right? But everybody, so many places you would look, you were inundated with emails coming to you saying, 2020, get a new vision. 2020, have a new vision. Well, look what we called in. Look what we called in. As we're running around the bases of our lives, let us not forget we called this in. We called in an entire different way for our planet, for our earth, for our world, to view it and to shift it and to change it. Are you with me? A man that was very anxious, that was all worked up, he said to Ralph Waldo Emerson, the founder of the Transcendentalist movement, who really represented humans being free. Thank God for him. Probably the most quoted person as a philosopher in the world. But the man was so anxious and said to him, forever years ago, he said, you know what? He said, oh my gosh, I hear the world's coming to an end. And Ralph looked at him and said, it won't make a difference if it does. Because he wanted to shock that person, to give them a new way of thinking, a new way to look at it. We have been trained since we were in elementary school to climb under a desk because something was going to get us, because the world was going to end, or Y2K, we were going to lose everything that we had, and oh my gosh, and what were we going to do? And we have been, people have allowed human law to override often in their lives spiritual law. There are some people that I would say to you that in the 11th hour of their lives, they're saying, okay, I'm ready to use spiritual law now. And so it's this awareness that we're constantly having, that we ask ourselves the question, am I just living in the human law? Which that's okay, that's okay. Am I listening, though, for me, to the spiritual law, to the evolution of what is possible? Does this make sense to you? Does it work to you? Are you getting something from it? The American Institute Society that represents stress. So the American Institute of Stress, yes, we have one. Why? You might wonder why we have one. It's because most physicians will tell you that 70 to 80% of all ailments of all the patients that ever come to their office have one cause, and it is called stress. It is called stress. And so when we look at that within our lives, if we are stressed, then more than likely we're adapting to human conditions, are we not? Rather than expressing and experiencing the spiritual aspects of who we are. A perfect example for me is in the human law. I could drink as much as I wanted to as long as I couldn't drive. I never got that one together. I still tried to drive, but I could drink as much as I wanted to. But the spiritual law, the moment I took that first drink, I got this message. I got violently ill because my angels and guides or spirit or God or Jeshua or Jesus, whatever you call it, was saying to me, this is not the path you must go. But in determination, I attempted it another 15 years. But little did I know that in my life that I would become a spokesperson about such things. You understand? And so the path continues to unfold in your life. There's a big difference between the little t of truth and the big T of truth. You know, the little t of truth is a person that walks around collecting facts. I can't put my house on the market because, they're not selling at a real good price. The spiritual truth says it only takes one buyer, and they're going to pay me more than I'm asking for. We have people seated in our audience today here on stream, live stream, that they have been paid more for their home than the asking price. Do you get that? So there's a difference between the little t and the big T. People will say, oh, I want to live a long and healthy life, and I want to be happy, and I want to be healthy and everything. But then they start with then the little t. The little t is, oh, yeah, but I don't want anything to be wrong with me. Zap. It's the big truth of your life that you can go into any year of your life and you can thrive and you can be dynamic and you can be an energetic presence and you can be a difference maker just from the very nature that you have made that decision. I think of the story of Solomon, that when it came time to ask God what he wanted, he said he wanted discernment. And it tells us that in Scripture in 1 Kings 3. Verses 10 through 13, and you can take the time and read that. But Solomon said to God, I want discernment. And God said, you have asked for this ability to be wise and asked for discernment to lead your people. And because you have done this, and because you didn't ask, not only am I going to give you discernment, I'm going to give you honor, and I'm going to give you wealth. And therefore, nobody will ever be like you, and nobody after you will be like you. Can you get that? Can you wrap your head around that? And people say often, well, but I'm not leading a set of people. The very nature, if you're breathing, you're leading a set of people. You're taking up space on this planet with your consciousness, with your thoughts, with your prayer work. It doesn't matter if you belong to a club or if you have a credential or whatever you may be serving. You are on this planet with the collective consciousness of your energetic field. So therefore, you are always leading people somewhere about something. Can you wrap your head around that? I love the radio show that I've been privileged to do on Unity Online Radio. I've been doing it for about 12 years now. So, I started somewhere in my 30s, I'm sure. But, I know, I forget myself. Let me scratch that one off. Okay, I was just seeing if you were listening. That's all I'm doing. Seeing if you're paying attention because, don't want to do a lie. It will come back on me. But all that said, I love doing that radio show. And many times the little T has been, the little T of my truth has said, oh, it's one more thing to do. But the bigger T says, stay with it, stay with it. And I tell you, having that show about intentional spirits, having that show and listening to people of how they've had so many adversities in their life and so many things that appear to be against them, and how it really shape-shifted them to be the incredible people that they are today, that they're able to take their background and they're able to move it into a future movement for the strong finish. If you're changing some kind of addiction or you're changing some kind of habit in your life, don't think you're doing us a favor because you said, well, I quit that. We don't want to hear about what you quit. We want to hear about what you're moving into. We don't want to hear that you stopped. God, we've been wanting you to stop it for years. We want to hear what happened after that. Right? You either have a little God or a grand God. And there's no in between. So we want to hear about what is home base for you. What is that place that you are aiming for? What is that space? That's where it's all about, and that's the reason that most people that quit something never really quit it, or they go back because they never replace it with the potentiality that has been waiting on them, asking them with spiritual law, cut this out. Quit playing small. Quit apologizing for yourself. Quit blaming your parents. We've kind of done that already. Ooh, it got me so worked up. Oh, my gosh. Got me so worked up, right? So I'm going to say a sentence, and I want you to finish the sentence with no excuse, okay? Because people are saying different things right now about, I got this COVID going on. So the person says, I've been really wanting to work on my body, but they closed the gym. No excuse. right? I've been looking for new friends, but I can't go out now. I'm looking for the love of my life. But now, I can't go out and meet anybody in person. And you say? No excuse. Do you remember the first love of your life when you were a teenager? You couldn't go out of the house. You stayed so much, you held that phone on your ear so long that your parents or whoever would say, that phone's going to stick on your head, right? And you had to share the line with 5 other people and get right back on it, with your family. No excuse. Oh, I was going to work on my IRA, but now I don't know if I'm going to have a job. And you say, no excuse. You can have the IRA starting today. Independent realization of abundance. Your IRA is waiting on you. Don't live in the thing of saving a whole bunch of money so right before you die you go spend it and outspend it for your grandchildren. No. Think about that independent realization of what that is. Rick Warren has offered a lot, and I love some of his metaphors and some of his analogies, and he said that I likened my life to that of being a plant. And he said, I liken myself to that. And he said, and you think about that plant, and it needs nurturing, it needs water, it needs the right kind of environment. But you just look at those weeds. Oh my gosh, those weeds, you can turn them upside down, you can throw them away, you can clip them out, you can throw them in your trash can, and they will grow in there. Am I right? And he said, to him, that is the spiritual practice of working with spiritual law. It requires participation. Participation. It requires being engaged. It requires getting up in the morning and saying, how am I going to prove to myself how infinite my Creator is today? How am I going to do that? I'm going to look at doing something different. I'm not going to have the same stuff, same day. Oh, no. I'm not going to be like that man that lived 1 year 100 times. No way. I'm going to live 1 year different every time in my life. Are you with me? And he said, because these weeds, if you don't tend to them, they take over. So you're self-critic. You get into human law, you get into these excuses, you get into or why it won't work, and nobody's ever done it before. And I tell you, a lot of these new thought people, you not only need to have a new thought, you need to have a new idea. Because nobody can explain to me, with the teaching that we have, why billions of people don't belong to New Thought. And I will spend my last breath on this earth talking about that would be the answer. Are you with me? Do you want to join in with that? Because it is time to stop playing small and time to honor the people that are playing big. Don't be intimidated by somebody playing big. Make an appointment with them and ask them what they're doing. Take it on. Take it on and have that experience. In this lifetime, if you are not exceeding your parents and your teachers, right? If you're not changing your idea and evolving into a revolution to an evolution, as Reverend Maria said, and you're not outgrowing the ideas of your parents and outgrowing the ideas of your teacher and the ideas of the God that you had when you were in high school. Are you kidding me? Absolutely. When you look at individuals that still believe in, worship, fight for, defend the same God they had in high school, and they're coming into their 50s and 60s, a lot of them, they still reflect the same life and belief system that they had in high school. You need your evolving God to get out of a church and get into your life. Get into your space and your consciousness. Don't ever defend anything that you're not willing to stand in and give your life for. I was surprised to hear how long ago this was, 30-something years. In 1998, I believe, it was Robert Fulghum that wrote the book, Everything I Learned, something close to that I learned in kindergarten. You remember that? And somebody else came along and said, well, we ought to write a book, Everything I Learned from Noah. He got on the ark. And so some of the ideas were that the first one was, you got to get in the boat. And the second one of Noah's wisdom is that It wasn't even raining when he started to build the ark. Wasn't even raining. No, he was going for a strong finish. It wasn't raining. The other thing is you want to take care of yourself, because when you're 600 years old, somebody might ask you to do something very big and very significant, right? And the other idea is that it's always good to travel in pairs. Always have someone, a connection beside you for your safety. And in this case of being on the ark, speed doesn't matter because the snails were there and so were the cheetahs. So there's nothing really that is stopping you and preventing you. And with everything that you're going for, if you're living in spiritual law, always remember at the end of that home base, there will always be a rainbow with any storm in your life. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you for being here.